don't know. Oh my gosh.
Alright folks, Alan Rubel coming back at you for Ozark Mountain Outdoor Adventures. Thanks for tuning in with us today because we do have a special treat for you. If you are new to the channel, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. We appreciate your support, and we do have a lot of fun and adventure in store for you this summer. And if you're new to the channel, you may not already know that primarily, the style of fishing that I do is working the banks. I'm a bank fisherman. I have been since I've been a young kid, and I just love walking around those coves where no other fisherman may have ever been, and just working the banks. So let's get right into it. All right, folks. Well, thanks again so much for tuning in with us today. We're just going to be going over some quick tips for bank fishing. Again, I'm primarily a bank fisherman. I love to get out on the water. I love to be fishing from a boat. But, unfortunately, that's not always the case. So we're going to go over some quick pros and cons of bank fishing, and then give you some quick tips to maybe help you out this summer. So if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button to the YouTube channel. Alright, like I said, so fishing from a boat isn't always a possibility, so you may find yourself fishing from the bank. So obviously there's some immediate cons that come into play from fishing from the bank. First and foremost, it's probably, unless you have a private pond, or some family with some land, you're looking at doing some public land fishing. And so that could be a bit of a problem when you're only got the weekends off and you're heading down to the lake or whatever. You're likely to encounter some other people wanting to get out and enjoy the outdoors as well. So that's just part of it. Get used to it. My advice would be it's better to be a bit early than a bit late, and you definitely don't want to be rushing, but first come first serve. So the first there, it will be the ones who will be taking the spot. So hopefully no one's in your spot when you get there. So that's definitely on fishing at public areas during those busy times of the year, 4th of July. I mean, you're likely to encounter some other fishermen as well. So that brings us to the second one, would be hiking. There's going to be a lot of hiking and a lot of cover. So to get away from those crowds, you're going to be probably going off the beaten path a little bit, trying to find those more secluded areas, those less popular areas. And so depending on what part of the state or country that you're in, you may not have as many public areas to choose from. But my advice and suggestion would be to try and look at those spots that are a little bit more out of the way, a little less public, and more secluded areas. So that would definitely be my next tip and advice for you. Okay, so again, a con would be that if you're not going to be able to fish the boat, you're going to be doing a lot of hiking in the thick cover. I mean, that does take some thought and some specialized gear for that. With your equipment getting in and out, usually those hikes are going to be taking you further and further from the vehicle, so you have to plan ahead that you can't just walk over to the car and swap out a pole or I got my lunch, I need a drink, those kind of things. So that kind of, you have to carry a little bit more when you're getting those distances further and further from the vehicle. Maybe that doesn't apply to you, but for the most part with hunting and hiking, I usually at least am packing some additional water, and if you carry first aid, hooks and knives and those kind of things. But ultimately you're going to be packing the tackle that you're going to be using by not being able to swap out from the vehicle. So the gear involved is definitely heavier. Also, likely from the bank, you're going to be fishing in heavy cover trees, bushes, and those kind of things. So some baits with big treble hooks that you might be using in open water. If you're fishing from the boat, you may be using plastic, weedless style baits and those kind of things from fishing from the bank. So definitely the gear is heavier when you're hiking further away from the vehicle would be the next con for sure. So, you know, as far as, but don't get discouraged, because you can catch some monster fish from the bank. And going into, definitely some of the pros would be is by hiking in further and farther maybe than some of the other anglers are willing to tread, you're going to be getting into those areas that those fish might not have been pressured, might not have seen that presentation before, and going to give you the ability to get in to areas that there could be holding some monster fish. And that's what's so exciting, is because you never know what you're going to be getting into when you get into some of those backwater areas that no one else wants to. When you get in there and you're not seeing any human sign, and you know, no bobbers or lures hanging from the trees and stuff, definitely gives you that good feeling when you're tossing in that first cast in a new area. So definitely getting into those pros is getting further away from the car is also going to get you into some fish that have not been pressured that season. Okay, so first one is go where no one else has been fishing. Toss those lures no one else has been tossing. But you know, that's, you know, pretty self-explanatory that you're wanting to get into those areas where no one else is. But once you get into those areas, start breaking down before you start even casting. Start breaking down from what you can see, the different type of structure, and start. My second tip would be then to start fishing those irregularities. Stumps, overhangs, bushes, you know, rocks, any sort of irregularity in the bank lining that you can get, you know, structure or cover for those fish that'll be tucked up into. Depending on the time of year, pond fishermen, I mean, you might be limited if you're not in a big area of what type of structure you have, but look for those irregularities in the water and just be able to kind of fish those covers or coves, points. Just look for that area where you'll find those differences, and that's where I would start from, right as soon as you get into a new area. All right, and also with that, when you're fishing the irregularities on points and coves, play the angles on overhangs and with those structure. Again, you might be limited if you're in a small area, so if you're casting to a log or a stump or a tree, try and play the angles. So you might cast a few different angles to the same structure, and that will sometimes trigger bites. And you know, it may be elementary type of logic there, but it is something that we oftentimes overestimate. We go in, cast one time, nothing happens on the first bite, and then we move on. But sometimes you might have to give it 2 or 3 times and work the angles and pull it in a different direction across that structure and get in that fish's face, and then it will trigger a bite. So give it a couple more casts, play the angles, and really work that area, especially on limited size, before you move on to the next piece of structure. All right, well, there you have it. Those are really my 3 best tips that I can give you for fishing from the bank. All other things are really going to fall into place for you if you keep those in mind. Get further and farther away than any other angler is willing to go. You know, play those angles, you know, and work those angles on when you're fishing, you know, the points and irregularities of the water. So anyway, thanks again so much for tuning in with us. I hope that you have like and subscribe. If you haven't, go ahead and do that, please. We definitely appreciate your support, and we'll see you next time.